Marvel's time-traveling, cybernetically enhanced mutant Cable's about to kick Deadpool's ass 6 ways from Sunday. But who is Cable? Where does he come from? And why should you care? Well, here's everything you need to know about Cable in Deadpool 2. As is the case with most Marvel characters, Cable's backstory has shifted and changed a bit over the years, especially because time travel's involved. But here's an overview on how he became the surly, cyborgy X-Man we know and love. And in classic X-Men fashion, Cable's origin story is more confusing than trying to use wingdings to decode the Zodiac Killer's letters. The character of Cable, as we know him today, first appeared in the 1990s in New Mutants number 87. Created by Rob Liefeld and Louise Simonson, Cable was born from editor Bob Harris's instructions that his team needed to shake things up a little bit with New Mutants and create a brand new team leader that was drastically different than Professor X, maybe like a rollerblade with arms or something. I don't know, it was the 90s. After kicking around names like Commander X, Cyber, and Quinn, they settled on Cable, a time traveler from the future with a metal arm, a glowing cybernetic eye, and a perpetual frown that not even Photoshop could turn upside down. Your move, Snapchat filters. The result was kind of like what would happen if DeviantArt Sonic the Hedgehog fandom were asked to make an original character inspired by the Terminator. A lot of pouches in places you don't expect, kind of like on a hedgehog. In his debut, Cable helped the New Mutants battle against the sinister terrorist organization, the Mutant Liberation Front, who were led by a mysterious armored man named Strife with a Y, a character whose backstory would intertwine with Cable's in a truly preposterous way, but we'll get there in just a moment. While New Mutants number 87 was the first time we met Cable, the Man, the character actually made an appearance in 1986's Uncanny X-Men number 201 as a little baby named Nathan Christopher Charles Summers, specifically the son of Cyclops himself, Scott Summers, and Madeline Pryor, who was later revealed to be a clone of Jean Grey created by one of the X-Men's villains, Mr. Sinister, who hoped to use their powerful mutant baby to defeat Apocalypse. You know, because comics. Scott and Madeline's happy marriage would come to a brutal end, though. Madeline was driven mad by Cyclops abandoning her and their son when Jean Grey came back from the dead, as well as learning the truth of her own creation. Madeline snapped and tried to sacrifice young Nathan as well as several other babies to demonic entities from the realm of Limbo. Yikes. Fortunately, Cyclops, Jean Grey, X-Factor, and members of the X-Men stepped in to save the day. Scott and the newly reborn Jean Grey received custody of the child, but things went from bad to worse when Apocalypse kidnapped the wee baby Nathan and infected the child with the techno-organic virus. It's a virus that is deadly and slowly turns its host genetic material into machinery. It was also Apocalypse's insurance policy against Mr. Sinister, and in a deeply strange plot twist, we would later learn that this virus was first given to Apocalypse by an older Cable who traveled back in time under the moniker of the Traveler, and Apocalypse then gave it to a young Cable many years later, thus creating this self-fulfilling Ouroboros bullshit prophecy of sorts. I don't know, time travel gets real wonky real quick. To protect his son, Cyclops gave Nathan to a woman from 2,000 years in the future from something called Clan Ascani, a sisterhood dedicated to defeating Apocalypse. She claimed the boy would become a savior in her time period and that she could cure him of his disease. Unfortunately, this was going to be a one-way trip for Nathan, so Cyclops did what any good father would do, gave his baby to a stranger and sent him to the 39th century. Nathan was raised by Mother Ascani in the far-flung future, who was actually, wait for it, his half-sister. Oh my god, who could have expected? Rachel Summers, his half-sister who was displaced from her own time period, the Days of Future Past timeline. While trying to cure his techno-organic virus, Rachel took some precautionary measures, cloning Nate just in case things went south, which obviously they did because it's the X-Men. And so Apocalypse's cronies kidnapped the clone baby, gave it to Apocalypse, who then raised the child as his son, a man who, you got this, would grow up to become Strife with a Y. Gasp you should, that's right, because the mysterious armored terrorist who Cable went toe-to-toe with was his brother from another test tube. And Strife is someone who Cable would go up against time and time again. Really makes me glad I'm an only child, unless I have a clone out there. I don't. As he grew up, Cable was raised by psychic projections of his parents, Scott Summers and Jean Grey, inhabiting cloned bodies and living as Red and Slim Dayspring. dumbass names. They never told Nathan they were his real parents, though, and did their best to train their son to fulfill his destiny as the one who would eventually overthrow Apocalypse. While the techno-organic virus had spread across the left side of Nathan's body, Red taught Nathan how to use his telekinetic abilities to prevent the virus from spreading to the rest of his meaty bits, and yes, that's what they're called. Much like in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Cable is incredibly overpowered. As the son of Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor, or Clone Gray, whatever you want to call her, Cable was born with powerful mutant abilities. In particular, he's a gifted psionic with the powers of telepathy and telekinesis. He possesses superhuman endurance and mental endurance, which sounds like they might come in handy in the nightmarish future he calls home, and he has a degree of superhuman strength as well, thanks to his telekinetic training, which he used to reinforce his body on a cellular level. His cybernetic eye lets him see light on spectrums not visible to the human eye. A gifted warrior trained in advanced weaponry and hand-to-hand combat, Cable is a natural-born leader with a real knack for battle strategy. According to Marvel's website, Cable is so powerful he can use telekinetic barriers to protect himself from a ground zero detonation of a 1 kiloton nuclear warhead, which would instantly vaporize you if you didn't have Cable's skill set. Also, Cable apparently has a law degree from Harvard? Why? In case a loved one gets mesothelioma in the future? In other words, he's incredibly powerful, definite chosen one material. Case in point, during his teenage years, he managed to defeat Apocalypse once and for all by preventing the mutant from transferring his essence into a new body. When Oscar Isaac went from an Oscar old sack to an Oscar new sack in X-Men Apocalypse, yeah, he put the kibosh on that. So how did Cable wind up back in the 20th century with everyone's favorite X-Men? Well, that's thanks in no small part to Strife, his evil clone. Despite living in a futuristic nightmare, Cable found love in a hopeless place, marrying an Ascani sister named Aaliyah and having a son named Tyler, or I guess at least a presumed son. He might be Strife's kid, which I guess would make Cable his uncle, which is... Anyway, I don't know. Unfortunately, Aaliyah was murdered by Strife and Tyler was kidnapped and brainwashed by his dad's evil clone. And if that wasn't bad enough, Cable was forced to shoot his son to save his friend Don Silk's life. Naturally, after all of this, when Strife traveled back through time to the 20th century, Cable followed suit, arriving in Scotland where he encountered everyone's favorite geneticist, Moira McTaggart, who took him under her wing. Adopting the name Cable, meant to symbolize his link between the present and the future, he traveled to America where he helped Professor X implement highly advanced security measures in the X-Mansion in exchange for lessons on how to live in the 20th century, which is a scene that I very much hope we get to see in Deadpool 2. Cable went on to reshape the New Mutants into X-Force, a more militant, dangerous version of the X-Men who we're going to see in Deadpool 2. And together, they sought to stop Strife's sinister plans and prevent Apocalypse from becoming too powerful. Using a ship known as the Grey Malkin, named for the street where the X-Mansion is located, Cable traversed the time stream between the 1990s and the future, aided by his trusty AI named the Professor. But how exactly is Cable connected to Marvel's Merc with a Mouth? Well, Cable and Deadpool first crossed paths in New Mutants number 98 when a man named Tolliver hired the Motormouth assassin to kill Cable. Now, unbeknownst to Cable, Tolliver was secretly his son or nephew Tyler Dayspring, who had also traveled back in time from the 39th century. You know, that old chestnut. That old "this is why you never have kids" chestnut, especially when they're just gonna be a constant thorn in your side after you shoot them, and they're gonna try to turn Wolverine into a horseman of apocalypse. And we talked about this, Cable, but I digress. The unlikely allies Cable and Deadpool starred in a 50-issue series in the mid-2000s, which proved to be a hit thanks to Cable's gruff take-no-prisoners attitude and Deadpool's fourth-wall-breaking quippy antics. It's a little unclear if Cable and Deadpool will see eye to eye in this film, but at least we'll always have Wade demonstrating his sweet katana skills. Spoiler alert, Cable's bullets are really fast, like too fast. Is it scientifically possible? Ask Kyle, he did an episode on it. And that is a brief overview of everything you need to know about Cable. There are so many more Cable stories to tell, but that's a story for another video, or else this should be like 3 hours long. If you want to know more about Deadpool or his weird love triangle with Thanos, be sure to check out previous episodes of the Dan Cave that I've done. But tell me, what's your favorite Cable story? What do you hope to see from Josh Brolin's portrayal in Deadpool 2? Let me know in the comments below and give me a body slide and thumbs up while you're there. That's right, Cable can teleport and he calls it body sliding. Fact after the fact. Now be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, or else you might miss next week's episode about a disfigured organist living in a labyrinth beneath a French opera house and the new girl in school who becomes obsessed with him and his sick butterfly stroke in Swim Phantom of the Opera. Until next time, keep on digging. Let's open up the old mailbag, shall we? Paul Jarman asks, will you ever write another Star Wars book? Well, thank you so much for asking, Paul, because I do in fact have a new edition of my Star Wars book out right now. It's called 100 Things Star Wars Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die. And it has 15 new chapters, 80 new pages, and it's fully updated all the way through The Last Jedi. It's like 400 plus pages of Star Wars goodness. So give yourself something fun to read while you wait in line to use the bathroom before you find out how Han Solo met Chewie the Tuesday before A New Hope. Also, pick up a copy of Chris Taylor's excellent How Star Wars Conquered the Universe while you're at it. It is a fabulous read. They're both available wherever fine books are sold. But tell me, what's your favorite Star Wars book, fiction or nonfiction? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.